All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We are live on AMP, so if you're watching on YouTube or listening on our podcast feeds, don't forget that AMP is the very first place that you guys can get these shows. We're going to break down 2 preseason games today, 3 Eastern Conference teams and a Western Conference team. The New Orleans Pelicans and the Orlando Magic played last night, so we had Paolo Banchero versus Zion Williamson. Then the Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, 2 teams that are realigned with some of their personnel this past offseason, showed down in Atlanta as well. We're going to break down those 2 games, and then I have 2 mailbag questions for the end of the show as well. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT, and I need more mailbag questions. Keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments. Also, last but not least, before we get started, you know how busy it gets as you get older. You have more social groups and more friends. Your family grows. Then kids get into the picture. All of a sudden, you have a kid's birthday party every other week. It just gets busier and busier and busier. And then as you take on more responsibility with work, it gets harder and harder to try to find time to eat right. And my wife and I have tried all of these different, programs where they send you the ingredients and then you end up cooking and slicing and dicing and grilling and skilleting and air frying and microwaving for 55 minutes to have a meal, which is something you just don't have the time for. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about Factor. With the busy fall season just around the corner, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. Too busy with your end-of-summer goals to cook but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping and the prepping and the cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy. Then go back to crushing your goals. Looking for calorie-conscious options ahead of the busy season? Try delicious dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals, around or less than 550 calories per serving. Need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel the best for the rest of summer? Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Round out your meal and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 45-plus add-ons, including breakfast items like their delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato bacon egg breakfast skillet. Or for an easy wellness boost, try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions, source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. This October, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered straight to your door, ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/Timpf50 and use code Timpf50, that's TIMPF50, to get 50% off. Again, that's Timpf50 at factormeals.com/Timpf50 to get 50% off. All right, let's talk some basketball. So starting with the Magic and the Pelicans. Interesting game because the starters for both teams basically played the beginning of the first quarter and the end of the second quarter. And the Pelicans really dominated that first shift. They were defending really well. They were forcing the Magic into tougher jump shots, and they were missing them. And then on the other end of the floor, Jonas Valanciunas got them started. Herb Jones was hitting threes. They were cooking. And then in the second shift that the starters played against each other at the end of the second quarter, the Magic got going, particularly in transition. They defended extremely well and just ran it down their throats. They scored 15 points in transition just in the second quarter. Cole Anthony at first, kind of at the beginning of the second quarter, and then Markelle Fultz at the end of the second quarter. Those 2 guys just on every single opportunity, even on made baskets, were just pushing it down the floor and applying rim pressure and catching. Particularly Zion and Jonas Valanciunas were a little bit like disheveled in transition in their positioning, and they were just giving up a lot of easy opportunities there, and the Magic were taking advantage of them. I was really impressed by Paolo Banchero. There was a late second quarter post-up where Zion got a bucket towards the middle. But other than that, he did a really nice job sliding his feet and staying in front of Zion, flattening out his drives and keeping him from the basket, which is not easy to do. I was really impressed, especially coming off of that Team USA appearance. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a very good defensive season from Paolo Banchero relative to what we saw last year. And then we saw some of his high end potential. You guys also the dunk crosses over Zion Williamson with a right to left, catches him sliding the wrong direction, and then just elevates and just dunks all over Jonas Valanciunas. Paolo Banchero is one of my favorite young players in the league. It was an exciting first preseason outing for him. Markelle Fultz, 5 of 7 shooting for 10 points, 5 assists with 1 turnover. I thought he controlled the pace of the game really well in his second shift. He had a transition dunk that was just outrageous, and he literally kind of lost control of the basketball and started to roll down his palm, and he just threw his arm forward so much that the centripetal force brought the basketball back into his hand as he dunked it. It was ridiculous. But I think he also navigated screens really well with back pressure. I think he's super exciting and just brings a completely different type of attack than what Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero do. Again, this is the pedigree of a number 1 overall pick that had a weird stretch of his career in Philly, but he's starting to find himself, and he was probably the most impressive starter for the Magic last night. Wendell Carter Jr. hit a couple of threes on kickouts. That's vitally important for their 5-out spacing and just making it so that guys like Paolo can play their power game in the paint without having to navigate too many bodies. He also, in pick and roll, they were running a drop coverage, but he got switched onto Brandon Ingram a couple times and got some stops. He defended really well. Anthony Black, the first-round draft pick they got, who's the defensive-minded big, wing player, right? He didn't shoot particularly well, but he showed a lot of his defensive potential. There's a play in the third quarter where he was guarding Kira Lewis on a pick and roll on the right wing and did a nice job sidling up over the top of the screen and staying attached on the backside. Again, remember, in the pick and roll, a lot of those coverages, they're going to get past you downhill, because it's just damn near impossible to prevent that from happening. But you have a job when that happens, and that's to apply back pressure so that your rim protector can hang back. And on this play, Kira Lewis got over the top of the screen and got downhill, but Anthony Black chased him down from behind and ended up blocking him easily. Could have blocked it with his forearm. He was up so high. And that's the thing, a lot of back pressure guards, they're good at navigating screens and they're quick with their feet, but they're too small to be able to truly bother players from behind. And when you have a guy like Anthony Black who brings real size to that position and his ability to navigate screens and defend from behind, that can be really, really valuable, especially on a team like Orlando that has so much interior size. So really impressive performance defensively from Anthony Black. On the Pelicans front, I didn't think Zion looked exceptionally quick. Couldn't beat Paolo off the dribble. He ran 7 ISOs, post-ups, and pick and rolls for just 5 points. Missed some finishes around the basket that you're just used to him making because he's one of the best rim finishers in the NBA. I also thought he had a really rough defensive game, but he's been out for a while and probably still not in NBA game shape. I know David Griffin and all them were talking about how he worked out a lot this summer, but there's even a gap from there to NBA game shape, and I thought he looked just a step slow. You still saw some flashes, right? He had a nice driving kick to Herb Jones in the left corner. There was a play where he cut the ball in the left wing and Jordan Hawkins was in the right corner and his man was coming all the way in under the basket to basically zone up on Zion in an ISO. And he just threw a 2-handed skip pass that hit him in the shooting pocket, just on time, on target for a 3. He had that power dunk kind of coming out of the dunker spot where he got raked across the arms and he just powered through it, dunked. He had a couple of bully ball baskets around the basket. So it's not like he's played bad. He's definitely not quite where he was when he was cooking at his peak last year. CJ McCollum's jump shot looked good. Remember he had that thumb issue and the shoulder, torn labrum that was causing him issues getting, again, that reaching into the cookie jar effect. We think of it as a tricep thing, but it's a lot of shoulder too. And when you have shoulder pain, I actually have an issue in my right shoulder that I got playing golf like a dumbass during COVID. I was just swinging too hard and injured my shoulder. And every once in a while, I've been on top of it with mobility exercises and stuff. But for that first year after, it really messed with my jump shot because you're just going to lift and you're just getting that little bit of pain as you're getting into that shot, which just messes with your muscle memory. And he had 8 points on 7 jump shots last night, which is well over a point per possession. That's pretty good for a start. Again, for a guy like CJ McCollum to be impactful, he just has to be making his jump shot. And again, considering the 2 catch and shoot threes and the little short mid-range pull-up that he made, I think that's a good start. Specifically was shooting with more arc. You could tell there was a catch and shoot 3 that he missed about 26 feet from the basket at the top of the key. That was like a rainbow. And that to me tells me that his shoulder is feeling significantly better. Herb Jones looked awesome from the opening tip, was bringing that defensive intensity. Then when Jonathan Isaac checked in the game, Herb Jones like snatched his soul, like just bothered him on every single possession, was knocking the ball away from him, blocked him from behind when he got past him under the basket, just caused him all sorts of problems. And then knocked down 2 of his 3 3-point attempts. And again, like this is a guy that when he's down in the low 30s from 3, it can be like a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of impact. But when he's making his 3-point shot, he can be deeply impactful. So that was an exciting start to preseason for Herb Jones. His release looks good too. Like he's shooting confidently. There was one he made out of the right corner where the pass was a little bit out of his shooting pocket, and he like squared up in his catch in like one fluid motion. And I'm like, that's a dude who's been shooting a ton over the summer. He's clearly feeling more comfortable. Jordan Hawkins had a rough shooting night. Again, this is a professional shooter, flies off of screens, but a lot of professional shooters struggle with their timing and rhythm and stuff when they get to the NBA, so I'd give him some time as well.
For a limited time, Verizon customers can get Netflix and NFL Plus for just $25 a month with Plus Play. That's $120 of annual savings. Plus Play is a platform where Verizon customers can shop, manage, and save on subscriptions you already love, like Netflix and NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to live games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, and more. Just go to Verizon.com/Plus Play to bundle and save on Netflix and NFL Plus today for a limited time only.
The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweeter offer every game day this October. There are 8 games this weekend that have point spreads that are either 3 or smaller than 3. Lots of good betting opportunities for you guys to take advantage of. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet 5 on the NFL. That's code HOOPS, HOOPS, only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles in Louisiana. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right, moving on to CavsHawks. This was an interesting game because both teams are completely realigned, right? The Cavs, now it was a little bit more than usual because Jarrett Allen didn't play in this game. So they basically slid Evan Mobley down to the 5, brought Max Strus into the starting lineup with Karis LeVert, right? So it was LeVert, Strus, Garland, and Mitchell. So legit 4-out spacing, 4-out 1-in spacing, which is something that they don't typically play with. That is only temporary, of course, because Jarrett Allen will be back, but we got to see what it looked like organizationally in this game. And then the Hawks, without John Collins, they're going with 2 wings between their guards and Clint Capella. In this case, Sadiq Bey and Jalen Johnson. Obviously, that'll be DeAndre Hunter when he's healthy. But I thought Jalen Johnson played well because he's just such a good athlete, right? Let's start with the Cavs, though. On the Cavs front, the difference in shooting just completely changes the flow of their offense because these guys, they're not just shooters, they're gunners, right? Like Strus on the first possession, right wing, like above the break, 25 feet from the basket, just confidently rises up and knocks a shot down. Takes another one a possession later that's kind of contested from the side, right? Like even when he's not shooting the ball, guys are chasing him off the line like he's a great shooter. There was a catch and shoot 3 that Donovan Mitchell took on the right wing because of a kick out to Max Strus in the corner, where before they're not even making that rotation, and they're just daring Lamar Stevens or even Chetty Osman or Isaac Okoro. They're daring those guys to shoot those shots, and instead they had to rotate to Max Strus, extra pass up to the top of the key to Donovan Mitchell, wide open catch and shoot three that he makes. You're going to see a lot more of that, strictly from the standpoint of the types of shots that those dudes take and how aggressive they are and the way teams chase them off the line. Strus made his first one and missed a bunch of good looks after that. But over the course of the season, he's going to be guarded like he's a threat out there, and he's going to have a lot of games where he's hitting those. And then Georges Niang came out firing too. His first three literally was a transition three. Trae Young kind of gambles on a kick-ahead pass on the right wing, and he gets past Trae Young and notices he's got some space in transition and just rises and fires off the dribble from like 25 feet and sticks it, right? Like, and that's the difference. It's not just about having guys that can make shots. You brought in shooters. Like Georges Niang, there was a play where I think it was, if I remember correctly, Karis LeVert's running a pick and roll on the right side of the floor, and Niang's on the left side of the floor. And Saddiq Bey's in your typical dig down position, right? So he's kind of like at the right elbow. And Niang sees Saddiq turn his head, kind of like committing to the play, because Sadiq's thinking, I can rotate back out. If I see this pass, I can turn and rotate. Niang, because he's a shooter, and he's been doing this forever, and he knows how to do things like relocate. He sees Saddiq turn his head, and he runs over to the right wing, kind of like the right block extended up to the top of the key, right? So like between the top of the key and the right wing on the right side. And he runs over there. Saddiq gets caught off guard, and now he's way out of position to rotate. LeVert makes the pass. Niang knocks down the three. This is like another level to what you're going to see in terms of ball movement and the ball popping around, because rotations have to be made now, because these are legitimate shooters, not just guys that are capable of knocking down shots. I thought it completely changed the flow of the Cavs offense. And the only reason they struggled as much as they did in this game, because, I mean, the Hawks starters kind of beat up the Cavs in this game, was Darius Garland just had a really rough game. He just couldn't make his jump shot, and he wasn't making his like floater and push shot around the basket. Garland just had a rough night, and that kind of threw off their offense overall. But again, like when Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are cooking and they're in rhythm, having that shooting around them is going to add another element to this offense. Now, again, that's only one part of the equation, that too big orientation. And I talked a lot in the season preview for the Cavs about the issues that the Cavs had with Evan Mobley rolling downhill. Like, Evan Mobley short rolled the entire Knicks series. Did not make a single shot in the short roll all series. And he attempted plenty of them. He got kind of exposed as having trouble with scoring in that mid-range with Mitchell Robinson waiting there, right? So, like, there's two elements to the Cavs spacing issues. It's not just the shooting. They addressed that. It's also Evan Mobley in the short roll. And, I mean, one of the ways to alleviate that is to run five out more, and I expect them to stagger each other more this season to try to give themselves some more space to work with, if for no other reason than to prepare for the postseason on that sense. They got some good production out of Ty Jerome and Emoni Bates. Emoni Bates in particular, I want to shout out. Like, I was particularly wondering after what I saw in Summer League and what I saw in college from him, like a lot of off-the-dribble jump shots. And I was like, okay, he's an inefficient-ish off-the-dribble shooter. What's it going to be like when he has to play off the ball alongside other NBA players, and it doesn't make sense for him to take a 6-dribble pull-up jump shot anymore? And I thought he looked just fine. I mean, he made 4 shots, right, last night. And all 4 of them, except for the final one, because he made the shot that was the go-ahead shot before Trent Forrest won the game with that driving and one right before the buzzer. But Emoni Bates hit like a nice step-back 3 that ended up being basically what could have been a game winner had they gotten a stop. And that was really the only shot he made that was like an aggressive off-the-dribble shot. He was playing off the ball. His first bucket, his first 3, he caught the ball in the left wing, and instead of looking to force the action, he reversed it. And then they ran action. I think LeVert ran action. And then the ball made it back over to Emoni Bates on the left wing, wide open, catch and shoot 3, knocks it down. His release is really quick and high too, which kind of makes it so that even when the rotations come, he gets a decent look. His second 3 was a transition 3, like sprinting up the right side of the floor, getting his feet set in the right corner, calling for the ball, and confidently knocking it down. And then the final basket, or the basket before his step back, was that cut out of the weak side corner. They were running action on the left side of the floor. They defended 3-on-2. Emoni identifies it and cuts out of the weak side corner. Again, like, you want to be able to take threes, but a three is easier to rotate to. When they're really aggressive in their pick and roll coverage and they vacate that short corner, if you're an athlete like him and you cut hard, you can get dunks out of that spot. That's where Andrew Wiggins gets dunks for the Warriors. That's where Gary Payton gets dunks for the Warriors, right? And Emini did a really nice job getting his head of steam, catching off the cut, and going up and under and finishing on the other side of the basket. And that's the kind of thing is like when you combine his scoring chops with the ability to play a functional role off the ball, then you unleash the scoring chops in rescue possessions, or hell, when it's a preseason game and you have the ball in your hands and you can look to be aggressive, right? But then you can fight for minutes in the normal rotation by demonstrating your ability to play without the basketball. On the Hawks front, both Trae Young and DeJounte Murray were off for the most part. They were 4 for 15 from the field. But I like the overall alignment without John Collins. They're just really athletic when you go with a bunch of these like straight line forwards, right? Like the thing is with John Collins is he was a freak athlete, but he was one of the worst spot-up players in the league and was not a guy who could play drive-and-kick basketball. He was very much more of like functionally a big man. Like I know that's not what John Collins would say, but like they really kind of were structured as a two-big lineup. And, you know, by bringing in that additional athleticism, and again, like guys like some guys are good shooters, right? Like DeAndre Hunter is only okay as a shooter. He was kind of an average spot-up player last year. Jalen Johnson, it remains to be seen. But guys like A.J. Griffin and Sadiq Bey were good spot-up players last year. And that extends beyond catching and shooting. It's also attacking closeouts. And you saw a lot of that in this game. You'd see DeJounte Murray run action, get cut off, toss the ball to Sadiq Bey with 7 seconds on the shot clock and having a little bit of an advantage, and he would just like rip through and try to be aggressive with his size advantage. He had a play where he kind of bullied Max Strus to the basket for a layup. He had another power finish on the right side of the floor where he attacked and kind of hung in midair and finished. Like he has legitimately real athletic tools. AJ Griffin was beating people off the dribble and making floaters, right? He even had a play where he attacked Darius Garland where got downhill attacking a closeout and took a long step in that left arm to kind of push off before he took that second long step and hit that floater off the glass. That's downhill athleticism, which in a driving kick system functions as shooting. Like that can do the same thing. This is a Hawks team last year that was horrific in their spot-up play. It was a big part of why their offense was only pretty good when it should have been so much better with the way that they were organized and with what Trae Young and DeJounte Murray can do. When you have now A.J. Griffin attacking, Sadiq Bey attacking, DeAndre Hunter attacking, Jalen Johnson attacking, it kind of has a 4-out, 1-in feel that's harder to guard in pick and roll and harder to guard in closeout situations. And all that athleticism also helped them kick their ass on the glass. They had 10 offensive rebounds, out-rebounded them by 10. I said in my season preview that I expect the Hawks to go up a level and actually be better this year than they have been in the last couple of years. And a big part of that, in my opinion, is just them reorienting in a way that makes the most sense in the modern NBA. It was a difficult trade to make, obviously, with John Collins being a guy you invested in the draft. But I thought it was the right move. Kobe Buffkin is a combo guard they drafted in the first round out of Michigan. I was really impressed by him. He hit 3 jump shots, including a nice little pull-up jump shot in pick and roll. Made some nice reads in pick and roll. He made that skip pass. Remember, I always talk about the skip pass in pick and roll as like one of the most important identifiers of a player's ability to read the floor. Because seeing the pocket pass is pretty easy because you're watching that screen defender right in front of you. But seeing the help defender come out of the weak side corner and give you an opportunity to make the skip pass and misleading the defense enough to not telegraph it and to get it there on time on target is a difficult thing to do. And Kobe Buffkin made a skip pass, a really nice one to A.J. Griffin in the right corner. He ended up actually missing the 3. And then the big trait that everyone was excited about with Kobe coming out of college was he was one of the best rim finishing guards in the country. Like unprecedented good for a guard like him. And there was a play in the early third quarter, a pick and roll. He got downhill to his left hand, and Damian Jones was lined up with him, and he committed to it. And like they both basically were just like, all right, let's meet at the rim and see what happens. And Kobe literally just went with this like soft, he elevated super high, but just went with this soft left-handed finish like way off the top of the square that went in. And I was like, oh, well, there you go. There's the Kobe Buffkin we all saw in college that couldn't miss a layup if he tried. But I thought both teams in a weird way, even though the Hawks won, and it obviously was an exciting game at the end, even though the Hawks kind of won the starters minutes, I thought both teams kind of showed some potential of what their reorientations could do to help their teams this season. All right, let's move on to the mailbag. First question from Langston. I love the Lakers coverage because I want to see LeBron win. Would you have covered the Lakers as much if LeBron was on another team? And which team do you think LeBron would be a great fit on besides the Lakers? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The Lakers are the biggest fan base in the NBA, other than maybe the Warriors. So, and I would argue globally, the Lakers are a bigger fan base. So, even when LeBron retires, we're always going to cover the Lakers. The only difference will be is I won't really have much of a rooting interest in the NBA anymore. I'll have players that I like and teams that I like and players that I dislike and teams that I dislike, but not in any sort of like truly profound way. Again, like my relationship as a fan with LeBron is based on my childhood. Like he got me to fall in love with the game when I was a kid. So like with LeBron, it's a little bit more complicated in that I almost have like a sentimental attachment to rooting for him to win championships and stuff. But when he retires, that will go away. But the Lakers and the Warriors and the Celtics and the Knicks and the Sixers and all the big market teams are always going to be teams that we cover heavily. And again, like I always say, for you guys that are wondering, we are like deliberately going to do more breakout clips this year to make it easier for you guys to access our non-Lakers Warriors content. So like, again, we do 5-6 shows a week. During the postseason, we do 7, 8, 9 shows a week. So like, we are obviously going to cover almost every Lakers game and almost every Warriors game and almost every Celtics game. And like, but we're also going to cover, 20 teams this year pretty closely. And you have to kind of like look, because a lot of times I'll have a 40-minute video and the thumbnail and the description will be Lakers or something like that. But like I only talk about them for 15 minutes and then the rest of the show we're hitting the rest of the league. So like we are covering the whole league. It's just going to be, marketed in a way that's going to be easier for us to monetize. It's not too hard to understand why we do that. But we're going to do breakout clips more often now. So like if we break down, this game, like Cavs-Hawks, like this video is probably going to be marketed around Paolo and Zion, but like we're going to just release a second video that has that game, the Hawks-Cavs, so that Hawks fans and Cavs fans can find that stuff more easily. One of my goals for this year, one of our goals as a team here, the Hoops Tonight team, is like we want to make sure that like it's really easy for you guys to see the coverage that you want to see, especially when I'm doing 6-7 hours a week in content. The team that I think LeBron would be a great fit on beside the Lakers is actually the Golden State Warriors. I think his combination of the ability to score and play make as a screener at this phase in his career, especially as he's fading, I think he'd be really, really good in a role like that. Last mailbag question from Jordan. Why is it the coaches seem to be the scapegoats that get fired when a team fails to meet up to their expectations? I understand you can't fire the players who are under contract, but obviously a team's failures typically spread far and wide beyond just the coach. Why do front offices often target the team's head coach as a sacrificial lamb every time a team's season goes poorly? Couple things. It's easier to make a change at coach than it is in the roster. Trades are infinitely more complicated and typically require assets and if you want to upgrade. If your team isn't playing particularly well, then chances are the trade values of the players involved are not great, right? Like they're going to be lower than usual there. And so if you look at a situation where you're like, okay, we got this group of guys, it's like they're clearly a little burnt out on the coach. It's not the coach's fault that they're struggling, but this whole situation's not working. It's easier to be like, let's just get a new coach in there and see if they reinvigorate, like if they buy into the system again. A lot of times it's easier just to say that than it is to make a significant wholesale roster change. And I admire when teams are more aggressive with roster changes because that requires you to be self-aware of your situation. Like it bothers me when I see teams like the Cavs that clearly have a roster construct that's kind of doomed to fail, 2 bigs and 2 small guards. It bothers me when they, deflect away from those issues and blame other things. In this case, they blamed the shooting, right? But it was easy for them to go target a couple guys in free agency. It was a lot easier to do that than to be like, we have to trade, Jared Allen, or we have to trade, Darius Garland, right? Like it's a much harder decision to make. And so I admire when teams are self-aware of why they are struggling and are willing to address it regardless of what it is, instead of just taking half measures and partial measures to try to, mitigate a problem that won't go away. You know what I mean? And like, that's the thing is like, you can, Max Strus and Georges Niang can hit a ton of regular season threes and they can do a lot of things better this year. But like, unless Evan Mobley can navigate a 4-on-3 and score and pass effectively, they're just going to lose again. Like that's the reality, right? So like those are, and because their 4-on-3s are not spaced as well because Jared Allen's waiting under the basket, it's a structural thing, right? Whereas if he's barreling downhill and there's just shooters in the corners, he might have a better opportunity to be successful there, right? So, like, again, to me, the coach is always going to be the first thing to go because it's just easy. And then role players are going to be the next thing to go because it's easy. Significant core pillars of the franchise are always going to be the last to go because it's hard. It's just hard to make those types of changes. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate your support. We're going to be back tomorrow with more preseason coverage of the Kings, Lakers, and the Sixers and the Celtics, as well as the Celtics season preview. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.